Welcome to this lecture of engineering terms on time. This lecture will discuss the property of time, what it is, and how we use the property to introduce new terms in science dealing with motion. Now, unlike space, which we could pretty accurately measure and understand, what exactly are we talking about when we talk about time? What exactly are we trying to measure? Turns out that time is a measurement of something called entropy. Entropy is the fact that the universe is becoming more disordered over time. Well, what do I mean by that? Let's say that I have some marbles in a room and they're nice and ordered. That's what we would call low entropy or a highly ordered state. Now, over time, what's going to happen is those marbles are going to move around, and that means that it becomes disordered or high entropy. The universe is constantly moving to a state of higher and higher disorder or higher entropy. Entropy says that energy always spreads outward. The sun is always diffusing its energy out into space. The sun's a concentrated ball of energy, but it's always diffusing outward, and that's what entropy means. Everything is always going from a complex to a simple state, from an ordered to a disordered state. From these pictures you can always tell which came first. We say then that time is a one-way arrow. It only has one dimension, and that is forward. Without entropy, though, life would not exist. The sun's energy warms our planet and gives us energy so we can live and grow. Let's recall our chart on space. We recall that we measure space with meters, and we have 3 dimensions or method of movements in space, giving us 6 degrees of freedom. We also have units to measure 2-dimensional space, area, and 3-dimensional space, volume. Now let's add the property of time. We measure time in seconds. It's the only property that has the same units in the metric and the American system. Let us say that space is the distance between 2 points and time is the distance between 2 events. By dividing length by time, we can determine a rate at which things move. We call that rate of motion velocity. The units of velocity are the meters per second. Now, a vector is something that has 2 or more properties to it to describe it. In order to describe velocity, we have to know its magnitude and its direction. So when we describe motion, we have to say how fast and which way, like 50 meters per second north. But remember, velocity is straight line, uniform motion. But there are 2 ways we can move: in a straight line at a constant speed, or moving by changing our speed and direction. Let us say that space is the distance between 2 points and time is the distance between 2 events. By dividing length by time, we can determine a rate at which things move. We call that rate of motion velocity. The units of velocity are the meters per second. Let us say that space is the distance between 2 points and time is the distance between 2 events. By dividing length by time, we can determine a rate at which things move. We call that rate of motion velocity. The units of velocity are the meters per second.